Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes, and we don't take Russian money for doing so.
Oh my God. Or any money except from you good people.
There's no Russian talking points on here, no
There's
Kremlin bullshit.
no bullshit.
No, just
Yeah.
5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts. Tonight, no guests. The show is neat tonight.
Neat tonight.
Some singing, a lot of there's going to be a lot of curse words tonight, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB,
Oh,
how
I've got
are
my
you?
water. I deem 0 cocktails necessary except for you. Are you having your Manhattan?
I am having my Manhattan. Yes, I am.
Mm,
Yes, I am.
how lovely. I'm doing an Ayurvedic fast.
I don't even know what that means.
It just means I smell like curry. So I'm
Okay.
kind of isolating myself until I'm through this cleanse. But nice lemon in my water. I figured I could splurge and have that. Oh,
Wow.
I'm drinking hot cocoa. How lovely.
Yeah.
I'm reading some comments. I'm glad you guys, because it is getting to that weather. We're back. It's September. We had a little break there for a couple of weeks. How was your break?
It was breaky. I mean, I was busy. I was installing the kids at school. I was packing. I was unpacking. I was cleaning. So it wasn't like a vacation. I wouldn't say, but it was good. Everything went well. Everything's successful.
Good.
Everybody's landed where they need to be. My door is open. I'm here by myself. The cats might come in. They probably won't.
It's amazing. I can't believe you got 2 kids off. That is just a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope it sticks. That's what we hope for.
Yeah.
So, and you, how was your break?
Well, how do I look, everybody?
Fantastic. You look fantastic,
look
as
good?
always. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be able to put eye makeup on. I kind of just didn't do too much. But it's good. So I had my one eye getting repaired with that needed it, the other eye for vanity, making sure it matched this eye. So I had that work done, which is great. And I think it's okay. So I was freaked out. I'm not saying I won't ever do this kind of thing. This I had to do. And then I fixed it. But the other one was what do they call that? Electional or whatever, elective surgery
Elective
on the one
surgery.
eye, but needed on the other eye. And I've always said, "Oh yeah, I want this and I want that." Let me tell you, when you're facing having somebody actually put a scalpel to your face, I lost my mind. I freaked out so bad. So I talked about this a little bit because we couldn't stay away. We did
Yeah.
have last week, we came back and had our private broadcast for our members only. And so I talked about this a little bit there, but I'm feeling much better. I'm much out of my anxiety. So that's good. And then just the rest of it is just, getting into fall, getting a lot done. It was busy. It was a really busy time. A lot happening here. So I'm grateful to be back on the show, on the regular show with you. So that's nice.
It
And
is
then
nice.
for everybody who missed our private thing, you don't miss it again. If you're watching and you want to, please subscribe, become a member. We make it a very low threshold, but we'd love for you to come in at that $4.99. That really does help us because actually we don't take outside money for the show. So everything you see, all the animation, all the production value, which we try to have a higher production value than a typical YouTube show, it's all on us and our friends. So we appreciate all the support.
We do. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Did you hear, there's the new Beetlejuice movie coming out?
I did hear.
Beetlejuice, which can only mean that somebody's getting lucky at Lauren Boebert's house. That's what's happening.
I knew you were gonna drop something on me.
That's like a Letterman kind of thing. It's like
yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's it. That's all the jokes I have up front.
I hope it's not a farm animal. Okay. How about that? Oh, I did do something, and we'll talk about this maybe a little later. I'm watching that chimp crazy show. I think it's called Chimp Crazy. It's on Netflix. You don't know what I'm talking about, but it's this I think it's a true psychological disorder. These women who want to have baby monkeys, and then they get into the apes, and then of course the chimps grow up, and then they become violent because you have to contain them, and they're big and strong, and then they literally just lose their minds. Anyway, I cannot describe this show.
Is it an allegory about MAGA? What is it?
It's a little bit of an allegory, except you feel really, really sorry for these chimps. But
Yeah.
you have to have a psychology like a MAGA to get into this. It's like a very strange Karen, very strange Karen. Yeah,
Okay.
and they all end up going against PETA, and PETA's like, "We're gonna get you," and they have to rescue these animals. So anyway, everybody, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. I don't know what else to say, so we can talk about it.
Okay. I'm gonna get right on that.
Yeah.
It's right up my alley.
I can't. I can't.
Definitely.
All right. So
So
let's get into our topic. So as you said, we don't have a guest.
we do not.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we don't have a guest.
There is a reason why.
And the reason why is because all this Russia stuff is coming out this week. This is like, it's Russia week. And, for us who have been sort of on this for quite some time now, since 2016, 2017, whatever, this is like everything old is new again. We're returning to the scene of the crime. And the things that we hoped would come out back then are starting to come out now. Better late than never, I suppose. So we wanted to talk about, almost in a less, I don't want to say organized, but more of a free-form conversation way, our thoughts about all of the stuff that we're now seeing happening. And, we want to start just with the business of what happened, which is, there was a series of indictments this week, but the one that's making the most news is the Tenet Media thing. So Tenet Media, which is a company based in Tennessee. For some reason, Tennessee seems to be ground central for these Russian ops. I don't know what's going on there. Do they like country music? I'm not sure. But
Might be some nuclear facilities there.
I don't know. Marsha Blackburn. I have no idea. Is she Tennessee or is she North Carolina? No, did I get it wrong?
Whatever. I don't. She's just whatever drunken corner she slurs herself out of.
It's not good. So it turns out that this company, which is called Tenet Media, which again, Tenet is the Christopher Nolan film, literally about an evil Russian oligarch who wants to destroy the world. Just, they have to put it right there. They have to put it right in the fucking title of the company, so there's no ambiguity, or they can just laugh it off. Didn't Matt Taibbi have a podcast that was called something where it was just like "I'm a Russian asset" was the title of it? I forget the name.
Pretty much.
It was something.
It's very
not to suggest that he is, but
it's very Kremlin-y to have it so that they're laughing at us while they're committing some kind of act of performing some type of active measure, or information op, or whatever term de jour you want to throw on it, running their propaganda, or stuff that's more violent that they're connected to, like sending a crying vagina statue to us after 9/11. There's always a sneer. It's just always a troll. Always.
There's a cruelty behind the laughter.
That's right.
There's a meanness and a sort of fuck you-ness of it, which is all very MAGA and it's all, it's all of a piece. And the two people that are the most well-known in this group are Tim Pool, who's the guy with the beanie, wears the beanie wherever he goes. This is one of my cats. This is Titus.
Oh, Titus came in.
Titus came in and is being annoying. So I'm going to have to lock him out in a minute.
Hi,
the first cat to appear on the show. After what, 2 years of this? Okay, so Tim Pool always wears the beanie. I don't know what's going on underneath the beanie. I don't know if he's bald. I don't know if there's like
he's bald.
Is it
He might
his
have had
pylon?
but
He's a
yeah,
Cylon, and that's where they do the. But he's, these guys are just they're hateful. They're hateful people. And Benny Thompson is the other one. They're hateful MAGA people. They're Trump apologists. They're Putin apologists. I mean, Tim
yeah,
Pool was all over. The Russian talking points about Ukraine for a long, long time until like I don't know what 48 hours ago when he abruptly decided that maybe not.
yeah.
But
Yesterday, he was like, I've now determined
Mhm.
that yes, Ukraine is essential.
And this is like it's
Oh,
a
God.
it's a cocktail shaker, LB, of these people because Tim
Yeah.
Pool, has people on his show like Laura Loomer, and he goes on Joe Rogan or Tucker or whatever, and Elon Musk retweets them all constantly, and all of this stuff is also amplified by all of these Russian bots, these fake things, which drives the numbers up, which drives up the engagement, which makes sure that we all see this shit, even though it's not as popular as the numbers suggested it is, because it's all, what's your favorite word? Horse
Horse.
shit.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're making a lot of money. I mean, Tim Pool was making $100,000 per episode. I mean, what did you say about the useful idiot thing? Why would someone do that? Like, what's the paradox? This is like the Tim Pool paradox.
Well, yeah, I mean,
The
you have
gene pool paradox,
the
really.
gene yeah.
Yeah.
You have to here's what you're it was more like he was recently I did a tweet because he was calling himself a victim. We're victims. And
Mhm.
keep trying to find a frame for it, right? And it's like, yeah, all right. So there's only two lanes for this, and victim is not in either one of these lanes. Um, you might not be getting prosecuted because you're cooperating, but that doesn't mean you're a victim. So you're either a traitor, you knew you were getting the money from Russia to be part of this fifth column in the United States and mind fuck your audience, which for him is a lot of young men, right? And get them, radicalize them into being on the side of Russia and Putin and whatever else, anti-vax, whatever, right? Hating the government, thinking, and he's in that particular sort of controlled opposition lane, like RFK, where it's, and Glenn Greenwald, which is, I was a liberal, I was a Democrat, but I don't know. I'm a free thinker. I gotta just, you can listen to me and come be part of my audience because I'm not, I don't know about these Dems. And now I think that this stuff is over here and start to question it all. And it's just a pathway of hijacking people's brains, right? That are susceptible to this and maybe had never had a party affiliation. And because it sounds right. It's like, oh, okay, was this, but he saw with the failings in that. And now he sees sort of like, if he's going to stay true to those principles, which sound like my principles, he's going in this direction over here. And the direction always is straight to the Kremlin's doorstep,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is where Donald Trump lives. So that's
Mhm.
why they end up being in his camp and supporting him, is because that's what Putin wants. So it's just like so you're either a traitor, you know what you're doing. You knew you were taking money from Russian intelligence services on behalf of Vladimir Putin to do this very specific thing in the United States without registering as a foreign agent. All they had to do was register as foreign agents. And then they could do this all day long, take as much money as they want, except that it's sanctioned now. So that there might have been some illegality if they tried it with Russia, but Russia has a lot of cutouts. You could have done it for Saudi Arabia. You could have done it for, Orban. Yeah, he was into it. So,
Belarus,
Belarus, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's one lane. The other lane is you're a fucking idiot. Like, you're such an idiot. You don't know your own business. You don't know that none of this money makes any sense. You don't think to ask a question. Wait a minute. Is this associated with something? Am I like, there's no vetting. You're just like,
Mhm.
yeah, give me money. Like a tech bro, like Elon Musk. Oh, I'll take the money. Yeah, give me the money. Right? Give me the tech even. Give me the secrets. I'll take all of it. Oh, this is coming out of the State Department. Ooh, that sounds important. Now I'm important. So just this sort of idiocy on the level of just being sociopathic is so stupid. And also knowing that there's a group of people who work for a foreign intelligence service that have picked you
Right.
for being the biggest idiot they can find. This idiot's perfect for us. Because if they get caught, like these guys just got caught, they're facing windows. They're facing being thrown out. They're facing poison. It's not good for these people now. They're literally put their lives on the line to take the bet that Tim Pool and Benny Johnson are so fucking dumb that they can that this is gonna work. They're gonna be so useful for me because they're that big of they'll never wake up and get what we're doing. So that's what Tim Pool and Benny Johnson are admitting to being. They're admitting to being absolute fucking garbage cans of knowledge. Not like the knowledge is so rotten and corrupt. And yet that's the business they're in.
Yeah.
The business they're in is listen to us. We're the ones who really are going to tell you how it really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going trader because I think that's more flattering, right?
I don't know. Which is it,
I
Tim
don't want to
Pool?
be cruel.
No. A traitor being a traitor is a choice. You choose to be a traitor. You choose to betray.
That's right.
And that's a choice these guys made. You can rationalize it all you want, but
All you want.
Tim Pool, no one is going to pay you 6 figures per episode. Your episodes aren't that good. You're not that great. Sorry.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, unless you're doing a direct service. And they were reading from a script and, that was being supplied to them by the Kremlin.
Yeah.
And people were just opening up their mouths and going, it just was coming, this garbage can, right? I don't, the word disinformation and misinformation now, those words now, don't quite do its service because that almost sound like there's a carelessness or an unknowingness or, okay, you're just, you're into fake stuff. There's a science to this, to how you roll out information in order to radicalize a foreign population to your own agenda and your worldview. There's a system to it. There's a science to it. It's very carefully done. It's been perfected by the Russians. This is what they have perfected over the last century. They have entire universities dedicated to just educating people, finding the best talent they can within Russia of individuals who can learn these tactics and techniques and take them to the next level, and then cultivating them and then curating them into and absorbing them into the intelligence services so that they can do things like go out and find the biggest fucking idiot they can and give him a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah. And another point that we should make is that while we can laugh at these people, and we should, and we will continue to do so, because he's what is he, 39 years old with this stupid hat on? Come on, dude.
Yeah. It's like Zuckerberg in the hoodie. He had to wear that. They always have a costume.
Looks like Todd on BoJack Horseman. It's just, I don't know how anyone could take this idiot seriously, but there's real world damage that this kind of propaganda, this toxic, noxious propaganda, which is designed to destroy us from within, to radicalize young people, especially young men, and make them more violent and make them like guns and make them,
hate their neighbors, fracture families,
all this stuff.
It's a violence. It's a societal violence without a weapon, because the weapons will show up. It's a tearing at the fabric of our society so that we destroy ourselves on Russia's behalf and moves us out of the way of interfering with their agenda, with Putin's agenda, whether it's taking Ukraine, whether it's running transnational criminal operations, whatever it might be. We're radicalized into his camp. But to get there, know that this is a kind of what the camp is. The camp means you're willing to actually shoot your neighbor. go
Yeah.
civil war, right?
Civil
You
war, by the way, is one of the phrases that Tim Pool was paid
Correct.
money, hard money, to repeat over and over
Over
and
and
over and
over again.
over. Somebody had a screenshot of all the times Tim Pool said, "Civil war, it's civil war, civil war, civil war," you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think he was talking about the Shelby Foote books. I think he, he was trying to incite stuff, whether he knew it or not. That was the purpose of this thing.
And
And
and the purpose also was not just stochastic terrorism, not just all of that sort of real world violence with the guns that we can see, and all the fantasy and the gun fetishing and the Civil War, and I'm going to kill my neighbors and fracturing of families, but of reinstalling a Russian asset into the White House
yeah,
with the Supreme Court in his pocket, so that the rest of what is strength of our democracy, from our institutions to our rights and our liberties, can be systematically just torn down to the studs, just demolished. And
yeah,
an oligarchy can be in place, one that Putin controls, just like he controls Orban in Hungary. It's not that hard to see. But for some reason it was. I think up until this point, I think it's easier for people to see it now. I hope.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think so. And just to we'll put a wrap on this and we'll go to the next segment because we're going to try to keep it segmented. RFK Jr. was meeting with that Scott Ritter guy whose home was raided by the FBI the same time Dmitri Simes' home was raided by the FBI. Then immediately goes on Tim Pool's show. Yeah, they're all,
But let's back
again,
up. Scott Ritter is a known Russian asset,
yeah,
and his home
cocktail
got
champagne.
raided. Yeah. He's also been, I don't remember if he's been convicted and served jail time, but a purveyor of child pornography. And so, and I mean, little kids. So, with all of that known and in legal documents, RFK Jr. is his buddy and decides to take screenshots with this, camera shots with this guy. While right, just a day or so before he dropped out and became, Trump's shadow VP.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Crazy
exactly.
timing.
Crazy timing. And then
Mm,
that was a couple weeks ago, and this indictment is following that raid on, maybe
yeah.
it was even a month ago now, on Scott Ritter. So whether these things are connected or not, we're going to find out, we hope. We'll get to it in a little bit, how these things also tend to magically disappear. This might be all we get in
Yeah.
terms of exposing this particular active measure. You just have to sit there and think, if they were willing to spend $10 million on Tim Pool and his beanie and Benny Johnson, I mean, with the kinds of resources that criminal organization running that country, that mafia state has, do you really believe that this isn't just the tip of the iceberg? You think that's it? You
Are
think
you implying?
Tim
Are you
Pool is the crown jewel of journalism, of controlling the discourse? I mean, maybe.
I think if I understand you correctly, you're implying that when Clarence Thomas just went to St. Petersburg on somebody's dime and millions and millions of dollars, that was just a coincidence. Okay. It's just a coincidence, I'm sure, that
Well, I'm speaking specifically about what he's also in, is in the sort of the information space, right? The discourse. Tim Pool's about the discourse. He's not legislating. He's not ruling
right.
on a bench. I think there'll be tentacles where we see that there's Mike Lee seems to be very, very exposed to this particular cadre. He's kind of in deep with these guys, and some of the folks involved and connected to Tenet and to Tim Pool and this Russian op were also, I think, running his social media or getting him on, getting his stuff. So I think you're going to see some politicians and some political leaders, but just in the space of the discourse. So what
Mhm.
shapes the discourse in politics? We have this sort of thing of you and I. We're relatively new phenomenon. We only got into this because of this bullshit, because we
Right.
saw it happening. in 2017. Again, we'll get to that also in a minute. I don't remember what this segment was supposed to be.
I think we're pivoting into it anyway. So just go ahead and
Okay,
pivot. Or
so
start the timer if you want. I mean,
I started the time a little bit ago, and then I paused and I got it started again. So it's just a thought experiment. It's one that I ran through the Twitter sphere in 2017 of like, just understanding once you stand in the space of the Kremlin, you try, right? All right, let's be those guys. How do they see us? What do they want? I never bought into this. Putin wants to put together the whole Soviet Union. Remember, we were hearing that in 2016, 2017. What does Putin want? Oh, he's a chess master and former KGB, and he wants to put the whole Soviet Union. And I was like, I think this is about crime. I was like looking at him like, I think this guy's like, I think he's in with the Russian mob. I think this is about transnational organized crime, and it's about poking out the eyes, right, of the United States, which was really at that point in time, and hopefully now again with NATO, having and our allies, especially the Five Eyes, being putting stop gates, what are they called, goalposts and gates and all that, and big stops on his criminal and crime syndicate ambitions. And that's how we found Robert Mueller in 2011 in a speech he gave about Mogilevich. Yeah, and how, oh God, all the stuff from 9/11, we're seeing it's connecting back into, Russia and these criminal organizations, the Russian mafia, who's funding and working with the terror organizations across the planet to just attack and destabilize. So once you kind of get that, right, that Putin was a puppet in the beginning and then he became the mafia boss, it's no longer about this sort of old world view on nation state, this and that, except for what he already had in his goodie box, which was all of what the Soviet Union was able to compromise over here, and all of the knowledge, that Russia and the Soviet Union before, the Kremlin always, those intelligence services had gained over not just influential Americans, but our society. What do we value? We're an open society. The United States puts our things that we value, that are important to us, that we listen to, right at the top. News, oh, CNN, New York Times, right? We have this shit that we worship, that we say, well, this is the paper of record, and we're open about it, right? Here's the university, Harvard. Anything coming out of Harvard, anybody talking from anybody, teacher at Harvard, any institute at Harvard, connected to Harvard, whoa, right? And every country has this, oh, the Kennedys, Robert Kennedy Jr., JFK Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr., oh, yeah, he's a Kennedy. Yeah. So we're not a mystery. We're the least mysterious society in the history of societies.
Yep.
We can't stop talking about ourselves and the stuff that we like and what makes us tick and what we listen to. And we're just kind of dumb that way. And we're open that way, So we're naive. We're just naive. So you're Putin and you're over there and you're looking at, all right, I got an agenda. These guys I want Ukraine. Obama's kind of fucking around with that. Now I know they're watching me. I want to do this shit, because he's got his mafia organization was running tracks through Ukraine. Is a very resource rich. I'm doing shit in Syria. He didn't want us. He didn't want the hawks looking at him. He fucking hated John McCain. That guy was watching him. Hates our intelligence services. Hates them because we're really good at figuring out what the fuck he's up to and what the mafia that he runs is up to and stopping it. So, all right, he was done with America. Let's get rid of these motherfuckers. They toppled us. We can topple them. And this was a long-term, we have the Gerasimov, how do we say that? Gerasimov doctrine or whatever. This was a long-term play that may even predate Putin in many ways, but he certainly knew what to do with it. He knew how to compromise. It's what the KGB and then the FSB and the GRU and the Hezbollah, all these blah, 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 3-letter things that they've got are really fucking good at when it comes to, especially the human intelligence, right? They can gather up information through their signal intelligence, and they know what to do with that on a human to human. They know how to turn people. They know how to compromise people. This is not news. This is not a mystery either. Okay? So if they're looking at, he's like, okay, I want to control the conversation. I want to install my puppet. I want to have that puppet start stripping everything away. I want to install justices, right? That are going to do shit that's going to destroy the freedoms of this country. I want to activate everybody into the part of their brain where they're so traumatized that they can't think straight, right? I want to activate, let's get some stochastic terrorism going. These are all elements of a playbook. And people like Michael Weiss, journalists that we have that are great journalists, have been able to get that playbook out from the Kremlin through his sources. And there's others that have done things like this too. So it's actually available for everyone to read. I read these resources. You read these resources, Greg. Very few people have actually bothered to read these resources, but it is right there for anyone to learn how they do what they do. So with all of that being said, do you really think that Putin didn't set his sights on our sort of gold star brands that the American public just inherently trusts without question? Oh, the New York Times is in the New York Times. I trust it. If it's not in the New York Times, well, I didn't read about it, right? He knows that. He's got whole agencies of people who know that. He's got people over here who know that help him know that even more. So the question then is, you really think if Tim Pool's going to take $10 million, that was cheap and easy, right? If that's cheap to Putin, what do you think he would spend on someone who had the ability to get their stories printed in something like the Times? You think these journalists aren't available to be compromised? What, they have some kind of integrity? Some of them do. We still work with and talk with and are friends with some of them that do. We still admire the ones that just, keep doing that hard job. But I don't think it was any more complicated for him, I've said this before, than a line of cocaine on a teenager's ass and, a book deal.
Sometimes just the book deal.
Not necessarily in that order, as you've pointed out. So, and then you kind of say, okay, what if he was promising you, what if we roll this back a few years? Because they've been at this for a while, for a long while. That's coming out now as well. What if we roll this back to Web 2.0, to Silicon Valley, post-crash, when it was starting to reform in the mid-aughts? And you pick a couple of goobers. Let's find some goobers that want to be called geniuses, that want that mythology, that have that particular disposition, and just given the tech and all the cash to launch their shit, we'll make sure it succeeds. And not only can we make sure we're kind of putting the voices out there that we want, we'll control the very tech that's about to take over and hijack every single American's mind. We'll get in their phones, not just the TV and the print. We'll get into these, we'll create these sites, call it these social media communication things. Which takes us into the next big story, right? That came while we were away, even though this is why we came back for a private thing, a members only 5/8, of it being revealed that Elon Musk had to the names finally got disclosed. It's not that they were unknown to our Justice Department or State Department or anyone else, but it was revealed. What was this last week?
2 weeks ago, I
That
think. Yeah.
that some sanctioned Russian oligarchs passed their money through their kids and into Elon's acquisition of Twitter to make sure that he could buy that.
Sure looks that way. Sure looks that way. Those are, yeah, sons of sanctioneers.
He certainly knew this.
Yeah,
Again,
no,
you can't have it both ways. You can't call yourself a genius and also be a useful idiot at this level to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars being invested in you because you're such a fucking idiot. You got to choose.
Yeah.
You're either a traitor with intelligence or you're a fucking fraud. And you're
I think Musk is the latter. I think he's a very dumb human. That's what I think. But he could also be a traitor. You could be dumb and be a traitor also.
Yeah, he could be it all. Why not?
You could be
with enough ketamine, you too.
Okay, so before we wrap up the segment, just quick things I want to hit as you were talking, making notes of things we didn't hit. First of all, this Tenet Media thing also extends to Canada. I know we have a lot of people from Canada that watch the show.
Yeah.
I think it might even be more prominent in Canada than it is here in the United States. These guys very deep into all of that trucker convoy bullshit, and Pierre Poilievre, just great friends with these people. So, that's one thing. So it's a North American thing. It does not stop at the border. Canada also has a problem with people coming up from the southern border, doesn't apparently. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, guess who was on some show, I forget which show, talking about how poor Tim Pool was a victim.
Oh, which one?
Marco Rubio. Rubio, former chair of the fucking Senate Intelligence Committee.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio, who gave us Alien Cannon, who's basically just placed there to fuck the Trump thing up. Yeah. Marco Rubio, we don't even need to ask about the dual thing. Marco Rubio is a traitor, flat out, full stop. I don't know what they have on him. I have some idea, but that he is a traitor. So maybe if you're in the media and you're like, I don't know what to work on, dig into that motherfucker, because he's a dangerous guy.
Yeah.
He knows more than most people on planet Earth about what's going on because he was on the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah,
for him to go on a TV show.
He was chairing it, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was,
for him to go on a
show.
Came
out and he said, confirmed. Oh, yep, it was Russia that helped Trump get in there. We have it all, confirming everything in the Mueller report.
And then he made that hostage video where he said it was no collusion, though, or whatever. Just a disgusting traitor. And that's it. I know he thinks he's a Christian and a good, Catholic and all this. He's a fucking traitor. Period. He's horrible. Horrible.
Well, and also, if if this little team, this little weird thing that's connected to that funded Tenet and Tim Pool and Benny Johnson in the women channel, and to have several channels, and they were reaching out to other people. Seb Gorka was like, yeah, they reached out to me, but I knew that was a Russian active measure. So even that guy.
Wow. Even Seb Gorka knew to say no.
He was like, yeah, no, this money doesn't make sense. I.e. we're going to get caught. We're going to get caught. Right. So, and they did. So that money coming in to there, and those people, they provided the content. Tim Pool was just a parrot for the content that was provided to him. Okay. They said, this is what you want you to talk about. You're going to do it in this order. You think they don't know how to do that with politicians?
Oh, they know how to do it with politicians. I think politicians, certainly here, I mean, many of them just have the right personality to be co-opted. They're like looking for it. It
Oh,
seems like
yeah. These are broken people. So, and easily compromised. If not, I don't know that they would be politicians if they weren't already compromised to
yeah.
begin
I
with.
was going to say
These are the ways
chicken and the egg.
to peel it back, and not in a conspiratorial way, but just in a big picture way. Just ask yourself these questions of, God, do you really like? Does it make sense that this is a one-off? We know it's not. It's just not. There's
Yeah.
how many other names that they have? It's not a one-off.
600 something.
It's not a one-off even for this one little group. But if you know how, again, learn how the enemy operates. This is just Russia. We're not even talking about China, Iran. We know Egypt. We know how well they compromise. They just stick gold bars in your coat pockets. Like, this is the game, folks. This is the game. This is what we're dealing with and what we're up against, and why the stakes are so high. Because as you said, as you began to say, it doesn't just have the consequences of just mind fucking everybody. We lost our rights to bodily autonomy. Over 50% of the population doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Children have legal access, or at least there's not too much, there's nothing stopping a father from giving a child an AR-15, even if that child is saying, I have mental health issues. Now, there may be consequences to the child and to the father once he acts with it, but that's too late.
Yeah.
People are dead.
Yep.
We have real bloodshed, mountains of it.
Yeah. And that's all.
We're about to lose our institutions. If this guy gets back in, we're not going to have a Department of Education. No one's going to be educated.
Nope.
You think your health care is working for you? Good luck for that. You want to go and eat a piece of food, a piece of meat? Everybody needs to go vegan, because the FDA is gone. What, you're going to eat this poison fucking beef because there's no oversight on that? And good luck, having the rule of law actually keeps this fabric of society in place.
Yeah. No, it would be a shit show.
These are the stakes.
It would be untenable. Okay. It's time for some media. It's time for some singing, LB.
Oh, good. We need some singing. Zuckerberg at Facebook, Durov at Telegram, Dorsey, Guccifer, and Peter Thiel, Cambridge Analytica, and all that mega spam. Roger Stone, Assange, and stuff this year. There's Parler, Gap, Truth Social, the libs of TikTok, Tucker platforms, Putin's toxic lies, Fox News for the boomers and for us, the Laura Loomers. This darkness is where democracy dies. Free speech is a tech bro word for Nazi megaphones. Kremlin, there's a white supremacy. And all the racist, sexist content Elon Musk condones. He throttles big accounts who don't agree. Free speech for him means no free speech for me.
Bravo. Bravo. Nice singing. Nice singing. I like it.
Feel free, everybody, to grab that and put the bleeding goats in it, like Laura Trump. It would actually make it so funny.
Barron Trump, by the way, starting NYU.
Yeah,
that super anti-woke school that is NYU.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we didn't have a guest. We talked about it. there's like I want to say we came up with the list of people because we knew what we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about what it was like
Yeah.
uh in 2017, and like trying to get people to see this, how important this indictment is. As much flack I've given Merrick Garland, getting the kudos. The Russia indictments, he's been on a roll. So I
Yeah.
appreciate all that. Very much so. Kudos to the Justice Department. But we wanted to talk about what this was like for us a little bit and kind of get into that and that history. And part of getting into that is the part of the story where it was, you know, we jumped into this in 2016, 2017
Yeah.
because there was this massive vacuum. There wasn't reporting on his Russia stuff. It was,
Yeah.
we were getting headlines out of the New York Times that literally through the election saying FBI finds no links to Russia, right? That story was getting covered instead of the New York Times actually bringing up their own archives and showing everybody how long this man who was running for president had been part of a real crime family, which is why you hear all the puppets going, Biden crime family, because
Mhm.
Trump's family really is legitimately a crime family, a money laundering front for organized crime. First, the Italian 5 families, just all 5 of them, actually, he was in business with us in one way or another. But mostly for the Genovese. People who know my work know that I'm the one who exposed all that. And then when the Russians came and rolled over our crime families here, because they knew how to do that, and their mafia is way more dangerous and no rules and they and just bigger and financed and supplied in terms of resources and technology and backing by, at that point, the KGB, which is, good luck. I'm sorry, the 5 families couldn't, like, just in the territory that they rolled into, there was no way they could, the Italians could stand up to that that Soviet era push into their territory. And so they took Donald Trump right along with it because he was a money laundering front for them. He'd be a money laundering front for the Russians, for the Soviets. This is established fact. And it wasn't being reported on in a way that actually, in any kind of consistent way, in any meaningful way, and in a way that would break through into the brains of the voters. It was suppressed or just left alone. And so you and I jumped in to fill that vacuum as just average citizens. I think what we were alluding to, what I was getting to in the first, before the song, was this is all one story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just all one story. I don't think that happens. That a money laundering front for the Genovese crime family and the Gambinos and the Lucchese's, and then that all got rolled over by the Russian mafia, and then a known, easy to find, a known front for Semyon Mogilevich, who at one point in time was number 2 on the FBI's most wanted list, and was deeply connected to Osama bin Laden and all of that shit, as well as the man that the Russian historians, and there's even tape of him as single-handedly being identified as the one that put Putin into office over in Russia. That Donald Trump being the laundering front for this man, that somehow, among others, that somehow wasn't a story worth reporting on. So what we found in trying to put that information together and get that information out there, you had Dirty Rubles. We both had our Twitter feeds. I ended up doing a podcast later on just to review it all, but I worked with all of these journalists. I helped many of them pull whatever stories we could get together and get out there, and a lot of those got killed. I
Yeah.
worked in my own industry, I set up a project. It got killed. I watched all these other production companies. Every single fucking one of them had a project of Trump Russia. That all got killed. They all got killed. It was a real battle. And we have the scars for it. So trying to find a guest to come on and talk about that experience, that's one of our scars, is it was such an avalanche of information. There was so much of it, while being gaslit, saying there's nothing that ties Trump to Russia, really, constantly being gaslit with that, while it was just, 30 years, 40 years, just piles upon piles. Like our eyes were exhausted. Our brains were like, we couldn't even do our regular life half the time because it was the volume of information that's public and known and documented. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about the stuff out of the state of New Jersey with his casino license. I'm talking about stuff at the Department of Justice. I'm talking about lawsuits. I mean, it's like, and real journalism. So we didn't have time to vet one another. Now we came out of that experience, you and I, with each other, and a friendship, and this stuff that we do now, and it's wonderful.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for it. But I didn't vet you.
I didn't vet you either.
You didn't vet me. We didn't have resources to vet. Some of the people that we were in those trenches with turned out to be just fucking sociopaths. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Bad, horrible liars, horrible grifters. We wear those scars too. And thought, it was just a friendship thing we were all doing in the spirit of patriotism and doing something that we knew we could do. Greg and I are professional writers. We write for a living. So for us, it was just a different kind of writing that we were starting. So we had professional ethics inside of that because it was an extension, a continuation of our careers. I'm making up words now, like George Bush and Donald Trump. But it left us with those scars to come and talk about this for a segment. And I want to hear, obviously, everything you have to say, Greg. There was maybe 2 or 3 people that we would even trust to share this space with, to talk about it.
Yeah.
That have real deep expertise and that we could learn something from and share that with you in this frame, not in the frame of fascism, strongman. Like there's a lot of incredible people, but in this specific frame, also connecting it to the propaganda, which is what both of us also did. We did the crime stuff and found the intersection with intelligence operations and specifically with propaganda in many places, as that being the tool, one of the weapons of war for the intelligence services when they launch it as part of a fifth column to try to topple a nation. So when you know that it's a crime family doing that, a criminal organization, a transnational criminal organization doing that, it's its own frame, and it's the correct frame, in my opinion, not just because it's ours and we found it, but because it's the only thing that's held up and is consistent, and does get confirmation from lots of other experts. So the people we would trust that we know to come in and talk about this weren't available. We did try to get them. So it's just us. That's what I have to say about it. I know there's more. I want to hear what you have to say about what it was like to try to get people to see this, that, hey, Russia's moving on us, and they're moving on us hard because this guy belongs to them. Right? Here are the ways that we're encountering it, and here's how we're trying to battle it, is filling the hole that journalism is refusing to address.
I came at this, in my mind, it was relatively late, but of course it isn't in the grand scheme of things. Now, you were way ahead of where I was. I sort of looked at it like, this guy, the Putin-Trump thing is really kind of weird. I don't feel good about this. I feel like when Hillary, and I was very, very pro-Hillary here in my Bernie bro town where I live, which, this is an old shirt, but
I love that shirt.
Me too. So I was very pro-Hillary. When Hillary says you're Putin's puppet, I don't think that was like some barb that she was trying to be cute. I think that was, she meant it. And I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, the intelligence services are warning us, all this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, my God, if the Republicans in Congress find out that this guy is a Russian asset, well, they'll just get rid of him right away. How naive I was. I did not realize the whole fucking party had already been co-opted, but whatever.
And that they already knew. Yeah, they knew and couldn't.
Yeah. And
He was president. Yeah.
We couldn't, we've been bashing the media a lot with good reason, but we should also say, and you mentioned the good journalists, the only reason I knew anything is because reporters were reporting on stuff.
Right.
And I think the problem that we had in 2016 is the same problem we have now, and the same problem we had in 1990 in high school when I was trying to write something about like whatever the lead up to the, some recent historical thing that was happening, which is the newspapers, the news, the media now is designed to be like, what's happening right now, right now, right now. It's this is the thing that's new, right? That's why they call it news. It's not called like last week's, it's called news, right? So because it's designed that way, there isn't a natural mechanism for them to stop, go back 2 weeks and set everything up and look at it through a big picture. So with this Trump Russia stuff, because it's so complicated, there were stories that were coming out like, Paul Manafort's coming to the campaign. Well, he did the thing in 1976 with so that's in a certain section of the paper. And then Donald Trump Jr. is getting divorced suddenly. That's on page 6. And then there's other stories that are national security stories. There's stories that are entertainment stories. There's stories that are from the normal political coverage. So they're from different sections of the newspaper, and there's no way to synthesize them. So what I was trying to do was do that. Take all the stuff we know and synthesize it in a way that people can understand it. So that's what Dirty Rubles came out of that. It's just like, this is the way that I'm seeing it. This is how you should just dumb it down to the, and in that, it's like, look, there was a lot of contacts between the Trump people and the Russians, high-level Russians. There were a lot of not least of which is the Trump Tower meeting, which is, it's Junior, it's Manafort, it's fucking Jared Kushner. No one ever talks about Manafort and Kushner being there. They were there. Natalia Veselnitskaya, who's Putin's lawyer, shows up because she's mad about the what's the Magnitsky Act. She's railing up against Bill Browder and trying to get sanctions lifted. That's the whole point of that meeting. She's there as Putin's mouthpiece in this fucking meeting. We don't hear about this ever again. It's just whatever. Donald Trump Jr. was on the cover of Time magazine with the headline "Red-handed," and then nothing happened. It just went away. So when these things go away, when the indictments don't happen, everything's like, well, Trump Russia, it's no collusion, it's whatever. It starts to tar us with this conspiracy brush. And it wasn't helpful that some of the people on Twitter wound up being minded in that way, certainly. So because you mentioned vetting, and I think in terms of vetting people on Twitter in those days, it was mostly what I know about this person and what's the quality of the content. How right are they? If they say something and they claim to have knowledge, does it wind up being true or not? If it doesn't wind up being true, fuck it. I'm never looking at them again. And, so going that way, it was possible to, there were certain accounts that I followed where if all three of them, because I knew they were coming through 3 different channels, if they were all saying the same thing, I was like, that has to be right. Because there's 3 different people, 3 different sources, basically, all saying the same thing. And, but who the fuck has time to do this?
A budget or a team,
Yeah, right. I felt like, as you did, this is our civic duty. This guy is a fucking menace. We have to make sure that people understand the danger. And the more it went on, how many, Jeff Sessions was in touch with the Russians. Dmitri Simes finally indicted this week. Dmitri Simes, introduced to Kushner by Henry Kissinger, brings everybody together at the Mayflower to do the foreign policy speech. Everybody there is a traitor. It's like traitor convention. It's like a, hotel to traitor in this place, and then Michael Cohen is meeting with Russians, and Mike Flynn is meeting with Russians, and Jeff Sessions is meeting with Russians. And I don't know what Carter Page wound up doing, but he was meeting with Russians, but I don't think he was as connected as we thought. George Papadopoulos went from, hey, I'm a member of the campaign, to like a foreign spy moving on him in a record amount of time. Like,
Yeah.
less than the Stairway to Heaven. You turn it on. By the time they're winding on down the road, he's sitting at the bar with the spy.
We had Maria Butina all over the place taking pictures.
The NRA being infiltrated. You had fucking Jared Kushner suggesting to Kislyak, why don't we set up a back channel in the Russian embassy? This fucking shit.
Or the Trump campaign and then administration. Yeah.
And yet all of this is happening. It's being reported on. The individual incidents are being reported on. But nobody's tying it together and saying, dude, look at all this fucking shit that's happening. There's definitely Trump and Russia is a thing. It is you don't want to use the word collusion. I don't give a shit. But whatever it is, it's weird and it's illegal.
And it didn't stop being a thing for his entire presidency.
Right.
And if he's back in, it's going to be a thing again.
Yes.
And so the chaos that is Donald is, his personality or whatever. This takes us into our next segment. I hope that was helpful for people. Obviously he's a chaotic person, between the stench of his body and not having control over that and not caring about what, forcing other people to smell him, and throwing ketchup on the walls and, eating his weirdness, and it's taking the documents and putting them in the toilet. It's just, the whole thing is like, it's like Grey Gardens on crack with the wrong kind of testosterone going on in there.
It's Orange Gardens.
It's Orange Gardens. Orange Gardens and Adderall. It's flowers for Algernon kind of thing at the same time. So all of that happening, right, with him as a personality. And yes, and it just felt like even the great journalists and everything, it was just an onslaught, and then they're fighting and trying to do their job. And all that chaos everywhere. He was on Twitter and assaulting us all the time. Remember all of that? Like whatever he could to just, just make it all so frayed, as in torn apart, right? Doing his job as a proper Russian asset, and being a chaotic person. So, and we see all the rambling in his speech now, and how kind of, someone said, oh, no, you're a weaver. Oh, that guy's smart. Does he have an English degree? Oh, yeah, he's got an English degree. Oh, he's an English professor. Oh, I'm a weaver. The English professors say, like, you can see now he's not great at shifting his gears to present the different faces that he wants to present, right? By the way, we'll find out someday who actually gave him Hitler's speeches at his bedside, because that is a propaganda tool that the Kremlin likes to hand out to people so they know how to weave shit together to radicalize people. But I digress. Back into
Is she buried on the golf course?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a different thing now. And I don't know if JD Vance, I kind of feel like JD Vance brought in this a side that's always been there with Donald and his movement in America. But there's something particular about that being the VP that almost ensures it. And it's this just darkness. The darkness. What he said about the school shootings just struck me in such a way. Like, yes, we had Donald saying before of like, with the parents are just going to have to get over it, right? That was such a dark thing to say. Yeah. Like, it's a talk about democracy dying in darkness. This isn't like not because things aren't transparent, so you can't get to the truth, but an actual depravity and violent assault on any kind of hope, any kind of light that comes from life, from living, from creativity. You know, these are dark, dark, dark men. Just it's like a black hole. And, you know, and then JD Vance echoing that and saying, you know, this is just part of like taking a child mass murderer killing teachers and others event and tying that to the word life, that we're just going to have to deal with this if we want to breathe in this nation.
Yeah.
As long as we're taking breath. That and it yes, it started with Donald and Carnage, right? And talking about American Carnage and his inauguration back in 2017. But this is kind of another level of that demon. And I feel like people there's a real existential threat, like to our existence, for that guy getting in. I do not think a society can, people can survive a nihilist leader that is also demonic. I don't use those words lightly. As a preacher's daughter, I don't use those words lightly. So I'm worried, you know, this is why we've got to show up and get everybody to show up. And I think Kamala's going to win. I'm not,
Yeah.
I really feel secure in all of that. I just want to reiterate the stakes and have that take us into the next thing, and just sort of say it's not just to our national security, it's not just to our liberties, it's not just to our democracy, to our way of life, to our clean air and water and food, to our ability, free speech, to the safety of our neighbors, and the sanctity of our families that these people are out to just rip to shreds. They're really out to turn our nation. I don't even have to be the shining city on the hill, but it's really an agenda for Putin. There's like a hatred inside these men, and they want that venom that's inside them to just spread. And just, you know, it's very Kool-Aid, the guy down in the, what was he, Jim Johnson, whatever. It's very cult. It's a death cult. And we're hearing the language of it now in real ways. And I'm concerned for people, for my fellow Americans and other human beings just being subjected to that. No one wants this. It's why I feel good about Kamala.
Yeah.
No one wants this darkness. Yes, we don't want the chaos anymore. We don't want a chaotic whatever. But people can feel this darkness. It's vampiric. And I think it's just going to be wholesale rejected. As much as everyone wants it to be a horse race and a close race, I just think it's like, no way. I'm not living in that. I'm not living in that. I'm not living in that dark, demonic place.
I mean, when we were talking about it before this afternoon, kind of preparing,
Yeah.
you know, you made some good points about what you're talking about, what the dark place really means, because I think in cultural things, there's this idea of evil and the devil being somehow exciting or sexy or interesting or smart. And these people are none of that. The real, you know, the banality of evil. That's the phrase that comes to mind. It's not, these people are fucking dumb. They're dumb. The society will be dumb. The Department of Education will go away. People are just going to be fucking stupid. And you know, like when I read a stupid book or watch a dumb movie, I can feel my IQ points burning off. It's going to be 4 years of that, or an eternity of that, of just IQ points burning. And they are as you've pointed out many times, they're artless. They have zero. There's no poetry in them. There's no art in them. There's no music in them. There's no comedy in them. They're just, they think that there are all of those things, but they're in fact none of those things. And, the irony, the great irony of all of these people, the Vance and the Musk and the Thiel, is they're so concerned about the birth rate, and we have to have as many kids as possible. And the birth rate went down under Trump a lot, and it's going to continue to go down under Trump because he is the anti-aphrodisiac. The entire concept of these people is such it just destroys joy, and it destroys vitality, and it destroys libido. It's just that's what it is. It's not a fun evil. It's just a bad of
It's
all
cruelty. So the only people that get off on that, because he gets off on it, you can see him getting off on the cruelty, are psychopaths, sadists. And that's not a space that, if you've been around someone like that, I mean, just having them come through the TV, it's like, but if you've ever been around someone with that kind of darkness, it's like, it's repulsive, right? It repels. If you want any kind of life, otherwise you're just gonna wither away if they're lording over you. And it's not that it's un-American. It's just, it's inhuman. And I think on a primal level, everybody knows this and doesn't want this, because most everyone is you got someone like that in your family. You got someone like that maybe in your workplace, a coworker, or in your community in some way, or an ex-boyfriend or husband or lover or something. And it's too dark. If you've got pictures of yourself with that person, look at how you look.
Yeah.
It's right there. So I don't think anybody wants that darkness. And she is, and I think that's going to end up on the debate stage. You're going to have this joy of Kamala, and a brilliance about her, a brightness, right? An ability to be in the moment in a respectful way, but she's not withering. She shows you who she is, right? That's part of joy, is embracing.
Look at all the art that came out. Look at all the fucking awesome Kamala posters that are boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
Because it's inspiring, and it's not the opposite of that, which is, what Trump is. People call him a sadist, and that's not even an accurate word. Marquis de Sade had the ability to put people that he didn't like, who had done wrong to him, away by, when he was in a position in the courts to be able to do this, to use his power. And he didn't do it because he wasn't a fucking asshole in real life. He just wrote weird shit. Trump is an asshole in real life.
Yeah. You can't write. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a totally different kind of, it's levels of orders of magnitude greater than that. Do we have, before we get to the much more fun, I think, fifth topic?
Yeah.
Do we have any announcements? Do you have any announcements?
Do I?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
What about you?
I have an announcement. My podcast is back. My podcast came back today. And my guest was Rosanna Arquette.
Yay!
Fantastic. And it was a lot of fun talking to her. And we talked about all kinds of stuff. It was really, really fun.
Good.
And a very, very, I think, very entertaining listen. So go check that out if you haven't already. Yeah, that's what I have to say. That's my announcement. That's my big announcement.
That's a good one.
Boom.
I love that announcement. I love it. I love it. I love it.
too.
All right. As always, we're going to remind everybody right here, subscribe, become a member. We love having you as part of our community. This is just I hope for everyone, a wonderful, safe space to also gather together. We didn't mean to take you into these dark channels. It just was a week, and coming back after taking a break to talk about this, because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the Department of Justice, because it's finally, especially as soon as it was under Biden, to get these guys, right? Like these criminals that have been attacking us and make us feel less crazy because it's real and there it is. And so it just stirred all this stuff up for Greg and I once it finally happened 8 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah.
All right. Our last topic, we kind of talked about it a little bit. So about this debate stage and seeing this debate stage. So here's the thing. We went through the last 8 years of this, Greg Olear,
We
of
did.
trying to get in all of these really bad actors and the bad information out there. The weaponized information, it's not just misinformation, disinformation. It's like this weapon of propaganda and of burying the truth about Donald and his criminality and his ownership, his puppet, Putin being the guy puppeting his strings, as well as China and these other countries. He is a foreign asset. He's not an American. Sorry, he's not. So what do you do? Like, what can we do?
Yeah.
Now that the Justice Department is finally rolling, we've had all this experience going through all this. What do we do with our voices now that will maybe make a difference, even though the platforms have been hijacked by more puppets? What do you want to say about that?
I think, I've been thinking a lot about, I'm really looking forward to the debate, which is going to be, I guess, on Tuesday night, September 10th. I assume Trump is going to show up because he can't resist having, this may be the most watched thing he's ever been a part of, honestly, which is saying something. So it's going to be interesting to see how he looks and behaves, how much fucking Adderall or whatever he's snorting is going to be coursing through his veins, how, hot out of the box he's going to be, if he's a dick to the moderators, all this kind of stuff. But there's so many different directions that she can take, so many different strategies that she can employ. And I feel like, trying to goad him into going after her physically or losing his temper in that way would be the best possible outcome, because if he did that, the Secret Service would rush the stage, which would be fucking incredible.
She'll be fine. She would be fine. Yeah.
No, she'd be fine.
Yeah.
But
you're not wishing for
no,
that,
we're not saying that. I'm saying get him to the point where he's just like, he's thinking about it and it's obvious, right? So that he totally breaks. My wife, who is a therapist, said 8 years ago, Trump is going to have a psychic break on stage one of these times. He's going to snap and his brain is going to go and he's going to do something completely batshit that you can't come back from. And, whatever it may be, it could be any number of things.
I thought we saw that in Helsinki. I mean, there's times where I thought we've seen this. It's hard to tell with him. But yes, I also think he's, I thought there was a point where he might just drop his pants, right? And just,
that's what she said.
Yeah, just to
like,
show his masculinity because he doesn't know what to do. Just a pure break. I think what we can do is we can start working on framing and questions. Like, this is what we want to know.
Yes.
And here's the frame for it. Not for her. Her camp is going to do whatever they do. But if there's a way to get the moderators to understand this is what we want to hear, you better fucking do your job. I don't know that they will. I don't know. Right now it's all, we're going to ask the Democratic candidate the Republican talking points and ask her to respond. And for the Republican, we're just going to stick a microphone, tee him up with a question, and just let him say whatever the fuck he wants, even if it's a lie right to our face that we know is a lie. And even we knew asking the question, he was going to tell that lie because he's told that lie over and over and over again. And we've even fact checked the lie post facto many, many, many times. I'm not going to be prepared as the journalist to actually call him out on the lie or follow up. I'm just going to put the microphone in his face, let him spew the propaganda and go, okay, and walk off.
Wow, he's a weaver.
He's a weaver, right? And there's this great term right now called sane washing, and there's all kinds of people calling it out. Now, there's a lot of people in journalism and in the media, in the cable news sphere, and in print media calling this out of their colleagues, which is wonderful. So I would like to add, as content creator and as the one that can say, I did the mob shit. I got my cred. So I would like to say there's a couple things I really want him to answer that are even of recent in the news, that things he said and ways to frame it. I want him to be asked, what do you mean when you said Kamala turned black? She's here on the stage with you right now. There's many Black Americans out there listening to you right now and everybody else. And we all want to know, what do you mean when you say that someone can turn black? What is that? I'd like to hear him answer that. And that's the way to ask it. Put him in his own corner and make him answer. Not hard. That's the job, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you? What do you got? I got more.
No, I've got more. I want to, like, just basic understanding questions. Like,
Yeah.
you seem to have confused, the one deficit with another deficit. What is a tariff? How do tariffs work? Why do you think a tariff is going to help the economy when literally every economist alive knows that the opposite is true? What makes you such an expert? What makes you so sure that your tariff is going to be a good idea?
How about just what is a tariff? Start with that.
Yeah.
Just basic,
Mhm.
right? What is
Yes.
a tariff?
What is NATO? What does NATO stand for? Who's in NATO? What is the history of NATO? Why is NATO important? Why was it created? What is its purpose now? Why do we have to fund it? Will you stop funding it? And if you're going to stop funding it, why are you going to stop funding it? Knowing what we know, that it's responsible for the Pax Americana that's existed in the Western world since 1945.
What's the Pax Americana? Got to ask him it like this basic. Don't give him the answer in a smart question. It really needs to be that basic. And
Yeah.
I think we'll get somewhere, right? When your VP says, and I think he might have said this too, that grandparents can provide childcare. You're a grandparent. Can you name your grandchildren, all of your grandchildren? What are their names? What are their ages?
Do you have any other grandchildren besides the ones that we know about? No, just kidding. That wouldn't be fair. That
That would be fair. But,
yeah.
how
That
is
would
that is that a plan for Americans that they need to have a grandparent in order to have childcare? And that's what grandparents, who's going to pay the grandparents to provide this childcare? These are the questions.
the general consensus, and actually what happened, is that Putin invaded Ukraine for basically because he just felt like it. And most of the world thinks this and agrees with this assessment. He's doing war crimes every day. He has drones that he's sending around trying to kill people actively in eastern Ukraine and Kherson. How do you feel about that? Do you still believe Putin? Because you believed him when he said that he wasn't tampering with the election, despite the fact that all of the intelligence services said the opposite. Would you still believe Putin now based on all of the carnage that's happening in Ukraine?
Yeah.
And if so, why? Have you talked to Putin?
Yeah. What deal did you make with Benjamin Netanyahu when he recently came to Mar-a-Lago? Your son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has said that he would like to develop real estate. Is this a plan that he's spoken to you about, to develop real estate in Gaza? Has he spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu about his real estate development plans in Gaza? Have you?
This
Just
is you. Yeah.
call him out. on the shit he said, call him out. Let him
Yeah.
say, "Oh, it's fake news. It's fake news." Why did your casino go bankrupt? There we go. I'm now
Um,
seeing everybody's joining in. You're getting it, guys.
that's a trick question because it's really casinos, plural.
Why you were adjudicated in a court to being a rapist. You were found to actually have having raped E. Jean Carroll. Even though you denied it, a court you're an adjudicated rapist. What does your wife think about that?
When's the last time you
What
talked to your
does your
wife
daughter think about that? Have you discussed your adjudicated rape with your wife and daughter?
or your
Do you have
grandkids?
anything you would like to say here today to the woman that it was found by a court of law that you had raped?
What did you
I
and
feel like
Putin
these are
talk about
easy
in
questions,
Helsinki?
but they seem so hard. What?
What did you and Putin talk about in Helsinki? And why is it such a secret? And why did you take the translator notes? Oh, I know what we forgot. Medical experts, there's been a lot of AR-15 in the news, a lot, for very bad, yeah, that's a good one, Chunk. What did you do for 187 minutes while your followers raided the Capitol? Well, there was a Bond marathon on TBS. You need to check that out. Scientists and firearms experts agree that a bullet from an AR-15 that hits an ear basically injures the ear pretty awfully and rips it right the fuck off. So what exactly happened to your ear and why does it still exist? And why was it okay enough for you to play golf without a bandage the next day? And what actually hit your ear? And was it a glass shrapnel? Was it bullet shrapnel? Or was it something you did yourself? And who's the doctor? And
Who
where's the
is the
medical
doctor?
reports?
Who is the doctor
Yeah.
who examined you? We would like the name of the doctor who examined you.
Ooh, oh, this is a good one. Look at this. This is good.
The Epstein flight manifest shows you flew on his plane 7 times. Was it 7 times or more than 7 times? Just straight questions.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good
Not
one.
too
Oh,
much.
but that's a trick question too, because does it count if the flight on Epstein's plane happened 2 weeks ago when he borrowed
Yeah.
Epstein's plane?
Why are you flying in Epstein's plane currently? How
Yeah.
did you procure that plane? You know it's his plane because you've flown on it before. So you can't say you didn't know it was his plane. It's your campaign. So you don't, and if he tries to deny it, say, so you don't know what your campaign is doing, what your staffers do.
Mm-hmm.
We now know the names of the men who assaulted the Arlington National Cemetery employee. We also know that you were aware of the rules before you came, that you could not bring your own photographers. Why did you bring your own photographers? And if he again tries to say that you have anything to do with it, it's like, why don't you have control over your campaign? Are you the head of the party and the head of your campaign, or is someone else running? Who's running your campaign then? Who made that decision? Who had that information and made that decision? Why are you not aware of the laws at Arlington National Cemetery when you were once president of the United States?
These are all good questions. What's Paul Manafort doing back with is he advising you? What's the deal with poor Manafort? Is he back into your good graces? If so, why? How about what was the reason that you gave in your brain? What were you thinking when you pardoned Paul Manafort or Roger Stone or Mike Flynn or Helly, your friend LB? Talk us through why you would pardon Ken Kurson, Jared Kushner's friend, who wasn't even guilty yet, whose trial hadn't even happened yet, who was, stalking someone.
Right.
Why did you allow that? Why did you pardon him before that even happened and deny someone her day in court? Why would you do such a thing? What was your
Do
rationale?
you and your former staffers and your former your council and your campaign have a problem? Do you believe you have a problem with domestic abuse when there's so many accounts of it and hitting women and raping women? Why? Why do you keep raping women? and assaulting women, and the people around you assaulting women?
Yeah.
It's not
These are
hard to
these are all
answer
good
these
questions.
questions.
We could
Some
probably
of
keep
it
this up.
might sound accusatory. I think there's plenty that we gave as examples that aren't accusatory. It's just like, let's get the answers that that no one had the wherewithal to follow up on.
Yeah.
We get the story, and then there's these obvious questions, and we don't have them answered. Look at the teeth pulling it took over a week, 2 weeks, to get the names of the 2 men involved in the assault at ANC.
And what a surprise it wasn't Corey Lewandowski. Corey Lewandowski's like, see, it's not me. I'm
No,
not the
but
only
it was
domestic abuser.
it was we didn't even have time for this story. It was one of them was a Ginny Thomas kind of connected
God.
person
Yeah.
who formerly worked for Ron DeSantis, and before that for Trump, and was the guy that actually organized the Women for America First January 6th event, which, launched the whole insurrection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think the last question should be, and just this will tie it all together. This will bring it all back home to the theme of tonight. When you allowed Sergei Lavrov and Sergei Kislyak into the Oval Office, and you were laughing with them in a way we've never seen you laugh before, what was so funny?
You know what, Greg? You know what I think? Because we've made it so far. We've made it this far, you and I.
We've made it this far. We have. What do you think?
I think we're going to get through it.